First and foremost, I want to apologize in advance for the glare in my glasses. Yeah, I can help you. For me parenting during this video. My kid is right here. My other kid is in there watching his stories. And I'm having some coffee and we're going to chit chat about lymphedema because I have it now. I was officially diagnosed with lymphedema, and lymphedema, I have a paper here that my physical therapist gave me. Lymphedema is an accumulation of protein-rich fluid resulting from an uncontrolled acute or chronic inflammation. Inflammatory cells become trapped in large numbers within a localized region in the body that creates swelling. As these cells continue to build up, the lymphatic system is unable to efficiently move fluid to the central drainage vessels of the body. As a result, lymphedema can occur. So, from what I understand, the protein-rich fluid, which essentially is that lymphatic fluid, has large molecules, and with the lack of lymph nodes, it's harder to move. So once you get into a situation where you have lymphedema, you always are going to have an issue in the sense of it's not like your arm's always going to be swollen or whatever limb is going to be swollen, but it's always something you're going to have to look out for. So ultimately, I really don't think anything changed in my opinion, because even during the risk factor stage, where I didn't have an issue, but I was always kind of knowing that it might happen and being aware and taking precaution. Are you okay? Yeah, you want to come sit? Let me kiss. Oh, better. I was always aware of it anyway. So now nothing really has changed, just the diagnosis. So I guess it works in stages. So I'm technically stage 0, which is good because apparently that means it's reversible in the sense of we could work with the drainage of the fluid and try to remove it and get back to its almost baseline. And when I was saying before that you'll always kind of have to deal with it, meaning that you'll never be at your baseline, but you'll be very close if possible. I have been extra cautious because I do know that prevention is always better than having to try to reverse something. And I've done all the right things, so, and it still happens, so it sucks. I'm not super excited about it, but in the same breath, it could be so much worse, and you know, I'm gonna do what I can to make it better. So again, I forget what I showed or didn't show. It's really hard to tell, but this is the affected limb. And if you clench fist, you can see this one's a little bit more diffused in terms of the tendons and veins and ligaments than this side. So this is the side that's more swollen. Oh, I'm sweating. Here's my daughter. Say hi. Just to give you a little recap about why I'm at risk for lymphedema, or why I was at risk for lymphedema. I went through breast cancer while pregnant, did all the treatment, surgery, chemo, radiation. I also had an axillary lymph node dissection where they had to remove 21 lymph nodes. I had 7 lymph nodes that were positive with cancer. The amount positive doesn't really affect the risk factor for lymphedema. It's more so how many are removed. So that's a pretty decent chunk of my lymph nodes that were removed. So what that means is essentially from the get-go, I knew that this area that the lymph nodes were removed is not going to be working as efficiently as it should, meaning it's not going to remove the fluid as efficiently as the rest of my body. So I knew I was at risk. Things that I knew I had to take precaution with was any kind of restriction that was isolated, like holding bags, like my purse on this side, groceries on this side, making sure I don't get cuts, nicks, any damage to this side, because then it has more risk for the fluid occurring, things like that. You just want to be careful. Compression sleeve, if you're going on a flight, compression sleeve, just take precautions and things like that, staying well hydrated. I did go to physical therapy when I was going through radiation because I did feel like I had tightness. It wasn't so much lymphedema, which I wasn't sure at the time. I had no idea what it was supposed to feel like. And I was having some restricted movement where it would be uncomfortable. So I was like, oh no, is radiation causing my lymphedema? No, it wasn't. It was more so cording. But I learned a lot through physical therapy. So I highly recommend, if they don't recommend you going to physical therapy just yet, you could ask for it and say, hey, no, I want to be evaluated. I want to learn all of the things, because it was really informational and it has helped me because I continually do exercises she taught me and all. What are you whispering? Okay. So that's a little bit, basically I'm just recommending, if you can get to a physical therapist that's specialized in this, you absolutely should take advantage. It's amazing. My physical therapist is amazing, and she's very like well versed in the subject and just everything cancer, and it's just nice to like have somebody who really gets it from a different angle too. Like all you're used to is talking to like oncologists and surgeons and stuff, and physical therapy is amazing. It just truly really helps you attack your recovery from a different lens, and from more of like a functional lens and your lifestyle and things like that. So highly recommend. So again, like I said, I went to radiation. I thought that it was like signs of lymphedema. Hey babe, can we not ruin this? Mama needs that because I have to call the insurance today to get my garments. Can you say lymphedema? Where was I? Radiation. So I thought I was having symptoms of lymphedema. When I was going through radiation, it wasn't. It was more so cording. So it wasn't lymphedema, but she gave me some things to look out for, some things to do. And like all the things I listed before, I just tried to avoid doing that. So I tried to avoid holding things on this side. If anything bothered me on this side, I would stop doing it, or just kind of take note and like take a look and tighten my fist, look and see if I saw any fluid or if I saw anything abnormal. Yeah, so I try to take precaution. I would wear my compression sleeve when I remembered. I wasn't really great at that, but that was more precautionary. I would wear it sometimes when I would train jujitsu, workout sort of. I was more worried with jujitsu just because of the restriction of limbs and things like that. But running and lifting, I didn't really wear it too often, I will say that. And I might do that more often now. I see you. I went to physical therapy when I was in radiation, the start of 2022. It is now almost the end of 2023. And I didn't really start to have any real dramatic symptoms until this past summer. And honestly, I think it all started, I could be totally off, but I went on a flight for the first time since I went through all this in early June. I went on a really quick trip. So I had a flight on a Friday and another flight on a Sunday. And I wore compression, and you know, I didn't notice any immediate swelling, but I did have some like pain. I actually ended up getting an MRI because I felt, I don't know, just tenderness. And this is still within this area for the lymphatic system for this part of my body. So in hindsight, it could have all been related. And according to my physical therapist, that could, like, little triggers over time could affect it. So I did ice baths, which I probably shouldn't have done that, even though she said it was okay. But if you think about it, it's extreme temperature. It's been hot out in the summer. So I don't know, all these little things were probably irritating it. I cut my hand, so many different factors. So when I first started noticing it, it was definitely after the flight and after, you know, summer had definitely got hot and things like that. And all of a sudden my hand blew up, and this looks really good for what it's been, but it was a little scary for me because it was the first time I ever saw like there's no question that was lymphedema, you know what I mean? And I was like, crap, I don't want to have to deal with this, but I did everything I could. You know, I did lymphatic massage. I looked it up on YouTube. I did all the things I remembered my physical therapist teaching me. I did compression. I just did all the things I knew I had to do. And It did fluctuate over time, and it never fully went down. Even still, like, it's still a little poofy, but it's the best it's looked in like a month or so. I will say too, when it was at its worst, it wasn't just like it looked swollen. It looked swollen, and it also felt tight. Like my if I bent my wrist like that, or my fingers, it's almost like it was so tight where it would hurt when I bent it. So it was more of like this superficial, I don't know. It wasn't a sharp pain, but it just was this, it almost felt like the pain was coming from it being too tight. Like there's no room for tendons and nerves to move, so it was just irritating the nerves. That's what it felt like. And also too, you can kind of see it now. No, that's hard to see on the camera, but there's like wrinkles in my forearm. And that I've noticed over time, like before the summer. Before I really noticed my hand blow up. And I knew it was because of my lymphatic system sucking. Please, please. Okay, I gotta make this quick because my kids are in short time. I was very aware of it. I didn't think it was lymphedema just yet. Kind of going back to the first time I went to physical therapy when I was in radiation. What, buddy? I first went to physical therapy when I was in radiation. She did measure, and I wasn't classified as lymphedema yet. I did have a little bit of swelling, but it wasn't anything that they would diagnose yet. Now, since I went back, it was pretty significant difference. Even after, by the time I got to my physical therapist, it had gone down, and she still said it was pretty significant. The difference between the normal limb and the affected limb, that's how they determine the significance, I guess. Things my physical therapist said. Fluctuating is a good sign. Stage 0 equals reversible. But once you deal with it, it's kind of always there. It doesn't have to prevent you from life, which I think was a good thing to focus on. Lymphedema is in the gray zone because there's a lot of unique factors depending on the person, as most things are. But where one person can be triggered by a specific thing, somebody else might not be. Heat's a more commonly irritating factor. So when it's hot, like it has been this summer over in Jersey, it could affect the limb. And I have noticed where I could almost feel it swell a little bit when I'm outside in the warm weather, so that's fun. I said this before, but small irritants over time, like you guys probably think I'm a terrible parent. All right, just to wrap it up, because I'm losing my capacity to multitask, which is always quick these days. It isn't the most fun to have to like acknowledge that it's officially here, but I will say I never wasn't aware of it, if that makes sense, because I was always at risk for it. And it's kind of like the same thing, because I also took the blood work test to see if there's circulating tumor DNA, which some people might not feel comfortable with, because it kind of tells you if you're going to get a recurrence at some point in your life when you won't know when. But at the same breath, you always kind of worry about that. So what is really going to change? Just having more information, really. So now that I am at stage 0 and I do know that that is something that fluctuates still, I'm really going to try to take extra precaution and do all the right things. So if you notice some of the symptoms, I don't know if I said this already, the symptoms I had, obviously aside from the swelling and the pain, was you could also have a heaviness in your arm, anywhere in your arm or your limb, or even numbness and tingling. If you start feeling those things, obviously like change your position or try to do something that alleviates it. Same within the heaviness, because the heaviness is also a sign as well. It could feel tight. Anything that you think is different from that limb, I would honestly ask your doctor and get into a physical therapy session ASAP, because they could evaluate you, they could tell you the right things to do and tell you if it's something to be concerned about. And we'd rather take precaution and then have to wait until it's almost a little too late. So that is my recommendation, is just be overcautious and get evaluated sooner, sooner than later. So you want to say goodbye?
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Say thanks for listening to my mom talk about lymphedema.
Bye.
This is my chemo baby. Are you happy, babe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm poor.
Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.